Call to order the Public Improvement Commission, Thursday, May 28th, 2015. Public hearing item number 1, on a petition by Eversource Electric for a granted location to install new electrical distribution and transmission infrastructure within the following public ways in Brighton. New business, May 14, 2015. Electric Avenue between Parsons Street and Goodnow Street. North Beacon Street between Market Street and the Massachusetts Turnpike. Goodnow Street between North Beacon Street and Faneuil Street. Parsons Street between North Beacon Street and Washington Street. Faneuil Street between Market Street and Washington Street at Oak Square, as shown on a set of plans entitled N-Star, Station 315, Boston, Massachusetts, 59 sheets dated April 3, 2015. Good morning.
Good morning. Rick Schiavone from N-Star, Eversource Electric.
John Hoey, Eversource.
David Petersell, Burns McDonald, as an agent for Eversource. Okay.
Because it's a public hearing, if you just walk through what we went through in new business and
Absolutely, I'll go through everything, and additionally, I'll also address some of the points that we carried forward from the new business discussion. So the proposed substation 315 is located at 40 Electric Ave in the Brighton section of the city of Boston. The station is being developed to service the increased load requirements for portions of the city of Boston neighborhoods of Brighton, Alston, and Longwood Medical. These neighborhoods, as well as portions of Dorchester, Jamaica Plain, Mission Hill, Roxbury, Kenmore, Fenway, are currently serviced by 2 other stations, one in Brighton, Station 329, and one on Colburn Street, Station 350, which is near the Jamaica Way and Huntington Avenue. Due to significant development throughout these parts of the city, Station 315 is needed to provide additional capacity and reliability to the region and the city. The work primarily consists of bringing existing transmission lines into and out of the new station from existing locations on North Beacon Street and building a new distribution line network from the new station on Electric Ave, fingering out to tie into other existing locations. The distribution duct banks will be used for electrical circuiting only, and there are no plans to lease any ducts to any telecoms. Primary streets being used are Electric Ave, Parsons Street, Faneuil Street, Goodnow Street, North Beacon Street. The Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities provided regulatory oversight approval September 26 of 14. There's been a significant amount of public outreach already conducted so far with John Hoey, and included 2 community meetings and site visits with Councilman Mark Chiomo and discussion with Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, John Latt. Additional public outreach will be conducted during construction, and that will include advisories, community relations hotlines, and project website. Businesses along the route have been contacted, for example, Welch Corp., Valley Crest Landscaping, Samuel's, Jaguar, Fay Photo, and others. All the work will be performed in accordance with the City of Boston rules and specifications for excavation activity. The work hours and permitted work locations will be coordinated through Boston Transportation Department. The temporary traffic management plans have already been submitted, reviewed, and approved with Boston Transportation Department at Hesford. 48-hour advance signing will be employed per BTD requirements. And there are also no parking meters along the route, so there's no need for parking deposits. And police details will be handled as required. Extensive engineering plan review and coordination occurred between Eversource and Boston Water Sewer Commission. BWSC plan approval was obtained on April 27th and included conditions of closed-circuit television inspections and relays of Boston Water Sewer Commission water, sanitary sewer, and storm drain lines in specific areas. A National Water Main Cleaning Company was recently awarded an Eversource contract to perform the CCTV inspections requested by the BWSC, and they will be approaching BTD for non-excavation of manhole street occupancy permits to do this work in the upcoming weeks, following which all reports will be submitted to BWSC. The vast majority of the work is in the roadways with minimal sidewalk disturbances. but any sidewalks disturbed will be reconstructed per the City of Boston Public Works Department sidewalk construction and rehabilitation standards. Pedestrian ramps will be per Massachusetts Architectural Access Board requirements as coordinated with Catherine Quigley, the City of Boston Architectural Access Specialist. And sidewalk reconstruction in areas of specific concern as identified by Katie Cho, such as Electric Ave, will also occur. Tree removal is not anticipated. However, if any pruning becomes necessary, Eversource has an arborist on staff to ensure proper vegetation management protocols are followed. All parks and recreation concerns have been coordinated with Lisa Meyer, Chief Landscape Architect. Street lighting concerns have been coordinated with Glenn Cooper, DPW Street Lighting Division. A City of Boston shadow duct with pull boxes is also included per coordination with Amy Cording, PIC Chief Engineer. Other mitigation and preventive measures such as rodent control program will also be implemented by Eversource through their contractors. The requirements of full width curb-to-curb pavement restoration will be the subject of a memorandum of understanding being prepared by PIC Legal Counsel John Liu and Chief Engineer Amy Cording and Eversource. Eversource also understands final paving will occur at the time dictated by the city after the civil work is completed. And regarding the schedule, Eversource is poised to commence field operations as soon as approval is granted and street opening permits are applied for and issued. And our construction plans have the overall civil construction work being performed in one season with multiple work fronts occurring concurrently. However, we need to remain cognizant of all neighborhood and regional activities which might preclude multiple work zones. And we expect to work closely with BTD at Hesford and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, John Latt, and Councilman Mark Giomo in this regard. And Eversource primarily is committed to upholding public safety and minimizing disruption as the two higher priorities over schedule. And that concludes my prepared remarks, and we're open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
You began your testimony saying that this is for electrical use only. And then you said that you were going to install City Shadow. City Shadow is for telecommunication measures. So I'm wondering what's happening now. You're installing these duct banks for electrical use only. But we're installing telecommunications for fiber optics.
The City Shadow is a separate and distinct conduit specifically for the city's utilization.
Just while they have the street open, we want a shadow duct run. They're not going to be they're going to be separated.
So that's for the city's use, and we're going to follow the city policy for that.
Yep.
So you're going to allow, if in fact the city rents them, you're going to allow access to your manholes?
No, it's a separate system altogether, separate handholds, separate conduit that will not be intertwined.
So it's going to have kind of intersection-spaced handholds, drops that we'll be able to access in the future. But this is just while we're going down all of these streets in Brighton, and they're going to be repaved curb to curb, that we would have shadow available so that we wouldn't have to dig them up immediately after the fact. But
If I'm looking at sheet 501, right, I'm showing telecommunication conduits right in your trench. You know,
Those are for fiber optic control circuitry associated with Eversource's own facilities. There's fiber optic control requirements.
So with fiber optics going in as part of your dig, you have to do city shadow.
That's Eversource's fiber optics. It is not a telecom's fiber optic network. Eversource has their own fiber optics for control cable purposes. The BTD, I won't say BTD, the shadow duct is a completely separate, distinct raceway system with its own pole boxes, which will not intermingle with the Eversource distribution duct bank.
We set up a meeting. The meeting was set up for a couple of times now. It's been postponed until sometime in June with yourself and your company and the law department to discuss, commitments made years ago by RCN So, you know, those meetings are gonna take place, which is good, and I just have to have a good understanding that the city is accepting what's happened so far from interconnection of city buildings by old commitments by RCN. However, I don't know, you know, whether or not, you know, when you say you're not, you know, that these are for electrical use only, and then you put it in fiber optics for your use only. We're mixing apples and oranges there.
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't make myself clear. The fiber optic conduit that's within the electrical duct bank is strictly, exclusively, and only for Eversource's utilization for its own control circuitry purposes. There's a supervisor control and data acquisition system, a SCADA system that's associated with electrical installation, and that will only be used for that purpose.
Do you have the detail to show what's in those, what's in those 4-inch ducts? You're putting in two 4-inch, you're putting in two 4-inch communication ducts
Again, for yourself, for Eversource's purposes.
All right.
Eversource right now has similar facilities already throughout the city.
I know that. I know that. But you're also under the Department of Utilities. It says you have to rent them. I want to know, are they filled up with fiber optics, or are they empty? What are they? Are they empty?
The shadow duct will be empty and turned over to the city.
Now, I know the cities
Okay.
are empty. Are your two empty? You got
They
two
will be.
4-inch communication ducts going in. Are they both full?
No, they are not full. They are strictly used to interconnect existing fiber optic for SCADA purposes only to the new station so that the control circuitry can be relayed back to the head house.
Okay. And if the Department of Utilities says that you have to rent, if they're empty and you have to rent them, you have to rent them. Correct?
If required by the DPU.
Correct. Okay. I gotta, you know, John has to look at this, Mike Elnich has to look at this. We have to, if we're putting empty telecommunication ducts in electrical trenches, all right, then at some point in time, they don't have to rent the city duct, they can rent your duct. Unless there's some type of commitment made there.
We're not owning the city duct. We're turning that over to the city. Eversource will not control access
I
to the
know
city
that.
duct.
You know, you said that. I don't have a clear understanding of whether or not a third party comes in and the Department of Utilities says, you know, that, you know, for them to release your telecommunication and rent your duct as opposed to renting the city duct.
More than likely, that wouldn't occur. I'll tell you why, sir. It's because it's simply we're tying into to an existing location, bringing circuitry to the new station strictly for supervisory control and data acquisition purposes. No other entity would like to utilize that route because it doesn't go to or from any customer location.
You know, unfortunately, Chunk's not here. I mean, has Mike looked at this?
I don't know that. I know that Chung had tried to get the meeting scheduled for yesterday so that this would be kind of resolved, but Mike couldn't make it, so.
I don't have a clear understanding of whether or not, I mean, the city wants, the city shadow wants it first. That's the policy. But I don't think that policy can, you know, has to be followed. In fact, we're now letting them install empty communication ducts.
Well, so it wasn't necessarily, the request to put shadow in was by the city such that we knew that these streets were going to be restored fully, and we wanted to be able to guarantee connection through this area. So it was a request by the city while they had our streets open, not necessarily them trying to conform to the shadow duct policy.
Right, but I would, as one member of the board, I would say they have to follow fiber optic policy because they're putting in fiber optics. They're putting in ducts for fiber optics.
Right, so-
And so they were gonna have to follow them anyway. All right, so, you know, but my question is they're gonna have spear ducts that really are not under the control of the city, they're under the control of the Department of Utilities. And the Department of Utilities says rent them, they have to rent them. And then the city ducts are gonna be empty.
Wouldn't one solution be is you could provide a duct or a conduit that basically has a capacity just for your service? It's not spare, it's not a 4-inch? Say a 2-inch pipe that basically carries your stuff and there's no room for anything else?
Part of our design is to put spare ducts in case we have a fault, is to be able
Running
to
into the
draw
problem
more.
with then you're running into the problem with the telecommunications.
Correct, but
So you
You
want to
can- you have
avoid
to
that,
build-
or you can put in the capacity for the one, then you avoid the telecommunications issue, as Gary's pointing out.
So I'm not clear now on what you're suggesting. You want us to eliminate the shadow duct and just
No,
put in
I'm saying
another?
eliminate the 4-inch for you and make it a 2-inch that only has the capacity to carry yours and nothing else, no expansion.
That's- Eversource has design standards that they need to follow. Okay, so,
But you're running into a problem now, so it's your decision.
okay, then maybe throw in one more 4-inch conduit if that's going to be satisfactory.
I'm talking about downsizing so that we don't run into the DPU issue. That's an alternative, right?
My problem, the way you have it designed may be perfectly okay. I just want to, cross the Ts, dot the Is, and make sure that the person that the city has hired to review this has reviewed it and approved it, which is Mike Lynch, and that our law department has looked at it and says, yeah, it's okay, all right? But the problem I have is that I don't have a clear understanding on whether or not, if the Department of Utilities says rent it, I think you have to rent it. And then the city shall, remain vacant. So I don't know, but that may not be the case, and that's why we need the law department to look at it.
Well,
Can I ask a simple question? You're putting this into your SCADA system.
Exactly.
Do you have an existing SCADA system that it's going to be connected to, or is that something for the future?
Correct. It's similar to we're tying into existing transmission lines, tying into existing distribution manholes, tying into the existing fiber optic network strictly for SCADA purposes.
Now, when will the wiring go into these ducts for the SCADA system?
That probably is after the distribution cabling or the high HPFS.
So they won't be empty.
Eventually, no, they would not be empty.
So they're not spare ducts. They're for your use, and they're not going to be empty because you're going to be putting cabling in them for your SCADA system.
Correct.
Okay, that's the answer then. They're not empty ducts. I think Gary asked the question, are they going to be empty? Yeah, they'll be empty until you put the wires in, then they won't be
Duct
empty.
is in.
Then they won't be spare ducts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is that true though?
Yes.
There will not be any spare ducts within the fiber system in the 4-inch.
Initially, one would probably be used. I think it's a 36 mode multi-conductor fiber. And the other one would be used potentially as a spare. So maybe, we could go with it, we could pull in both. Pull in both fibers and leave one leave the conductor as a spare so that the conduit is full to capacity. Do that. Very easily do that, actually.
Could be a solution. Moving through some of the paving issues. It's my understanding, and I want to just clarify this with Chung, that everything will be repaved unless we tell you otherwise? Is that the understanding that you have?
There was a lot of email traffic over the holiday, and more so after the holiday. The MOU is being drafted. We haven't seen it yet.
Our MOU will be drafted such to say that you're going to repave everything curb to curb and reconstruct all sidewalks that you're touching unless we tell you otherwise. And then when you're out there and doing construction, then we can assess the situation. But the agreement is going to say everything gets repaved and all sidewalks get rebuilt if you're touching them.
And you delay the paving.
Right. Yeah.
Right, in fact, that was one of Sean's questions yesterday, is when would the paving more than likely occur? So I had answered that question with, assuming we get all the infrastructure, civil work done before the fall moratorium, let it lay fallow for the winter, and then springtime, when the moratorium's lifted, we'll get into the paving operation.
We can put it in there to lag the season, and that way
I-
it doesn't matter when they finish.
Let's wait and see what falls out of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Agreed.
As far as schedule, there's an impending work action at your company. What reports do you have on that?
So we are currently in negotiations with our local 369. The contract expires as of midnight on Monday, June 1st. So we're hopeful that will get resolved in advance of that deadline.
You know,
We
that-
have you know, a plan in place, you know, to continue, you know, normal operations, you know, in the event that that does occur. But we're hopeful.
Specifically for this project?
Excuse me?
Specifically on this project?
Oh, not specifically on this project. No. No.
It's gonna be,
This would
we're looking at a very aggressive schedule,
Right.
so
Right, so we're hopeful that it gets resolved, but not specifically for this project. You know, the work would stop.
Although, can I interject?
Go ahead, go ahead.
All right, we've had some preliminary discussions with Eversource's project management team, and because this work is not on their private property, it's on in public ways, we believe there may be an opportunity to allow the work to proceed because it's in public ways, it's not really on Eversource property. So we're looking.
we're just concerned with public safety as far as, you know, potential, you know, job, things happening on the public way.
Right.
I talked to the
Understood.
captain, et cetera, so.
Understood.
From a security perspective, yes, absolutely.
That's clear, Commissioner.
This is advertised for electrical distribution only. All right, we are putting in fiber optics. I hate to leave the door open because, you know, honestly, Boston Edison or Anstar didn't have a good record with us. You know, I don't know anything about Eversource.
Do you want us to re-advertise for the next hearing with conduit added?
It should be, yeah. Because if anyone, if any of the telecommunication companies.
We already had them submit to all telecommunications about this dig because it was covering so many streets in such a long distance. They've already notified and we,
No participants.
correct.
All right.
But that's what led us to wanting the city shadow in case something happened after their construction.
Okay, all right. I mean, I think you did everything right. I don't know if we have to advertise it, saying that there was, that it's telecommunication with them, and then it's innocent participants.
Yeah, they were notified as that this is an opportunity to get in the ground, not necessarily to be in a trench with NSTAR as much as this is going to be open, and if you want to run conduit, now is the opportunity. Because we were not treating this as a lead company, we were treating this as an electrical run.
Yeah, I think everything is done right. As long as it stays electrical, I think we're all set. If it gets turned over to telecommunication, then
Would you like that in a separate agreement with Eversource?
yeah, I think that could be, you know, something that could be discussed at the meeting.
Okay.
I think that approach is very reasonable. Maybe write that in the MOU.
Okay.
Any members of the audience have any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, John Lott from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I just wanted to speak to the community outreach that Eversource has engaged in. Eversource for the past 2+ years has kept the community well aware of their plans for the substation. We've had numerous meetings where I've been in attendance, my predecessors have been in attendance. The company has worked to provide off-street parking for contractors to mitigate some of the parking concerns the neighborhood had. Any construction mitigation efforts that they can engage in, they will work with the community and myself to work on as they come up. I know there's a 24-hour hotline that members of the community can call. I'm always available. So we're going to keep constant communication. We just wanted to speak in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lapp. Okay, obviously there's some concerns here with Mr. Mosher, making sure that the subject matter experts, Mr. Lynch and Mr. Liu, have looked at these documents and that the MOU is in place for Public Works' issues. I would agree with Mr. Shea's solution, if you will, to the duct issue, and make sure that that is all buttoned up. So I will take a vote contingent on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Eversource Electric for the grant of location to install new electrical distribution and transmission infrastructure within the following public ways in Brighton, as read into the record by the chair and as shown on a set of plans entitled NSTAR, Station 315, Boston, Mass. 59 sheets dated April 3rd, 2015, with the caveat that the MOU be revised per the discussion here today.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Public hearing item number 2, on a petition by FPC Hotel LLC for the granting of a sidewalk cafe license for seasonal outdoor seating within Old Sleeper Street, South Boston, located on its southeasterly side, generally southwest of Northern Avenue, and consisting of seating for 46 persons and approximately 564 square feet within the public way. New business, May 14, 2015, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, License Plan, Sidewalk Cafe Plan, Old Sleeper Street, 70 Sleeper Street, South Boston, 2 sheets dated April 13, 2015. Good morning.
Good morning. Amy Prange with Colliers, working with FBC Hotel with the owner's project manager for the new Envoy Hotel at 70 Sleeper Street. The hotel is expected to open in 2 weeks, mid-June. There's 136 rooms, and the hotel operator will operate the restaurant in the hotel and the cafe associated with it. So John Schmidt from Mitch Engineering can walk us through the details of the cafe license.
Good morning, Commissioners. The cafe is located alongside the exterior of the hotel on Old Sleeper Street. As you may recall, Old Sleeper Street was reviewed and approved by this commission in 2013 for the specific repairs. This cafe has always been considered in this design process, and approval process. Old Sleeper Street is sort of a pedestrian-friendly public way, and last fall we also received approval for a sidewalk cafe for the Barking Crab restaurant. The application before you is for a total of 46-seat restaurant. 28 of those seats will be within the public way, and then the remaining seats are within private property. This layout is a little unusual from your typical sidewalk because the area where the cafe is proposed is actually elevated from the street about 30 inches. It's level at Northern Ave, but as Sleeper Street drops down, the cafe area remains level. Very similar to what we see at the Ames Hotel right outside of City Hall. The notifications have been sent to all the various parties and agencies, and we've received support and emails and letters of support indicating no objections, and that is included in our engineer's report that we've submitted to Amy and Todd.
I know there was much discussion about the delineation of the ramps up and down. What have we found on that?
There's a flush condition from the public here. There is access from within the restaurant to the cafe. Again, this is flush here, and at this end we have stairs that go down into the public way. The Disabilities Commission has reviewed the application, is in support of it as well.
Any members of the audience have any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by FPC Hotel LLC for granting of a sidewalk cafe license in Old Sleeper Street in South Boston, as described and read into the record by the chair, shown on the set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, a license plan for Sidewalk Cafe for 70 Sleeper Street. Okay. Sleeper.
Sleeper.
Dated April 13, 2015. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing item number 3 on a petition by Level 3 Communications LLC for the rental of city shadow to install new telecommunication fiber and existing conduit within the following public ways in Boston proper. New business, May 14, 2015. Devonshire Street between State Street and Milk Street. Milk Street between Devonshire Street and Arch Street. State Street between Devonshire Street and Congress Street, as shown on a plan entitled Shadow Map Route 33 Arch Street, Boston, Mass., sheet dated November 7, 2014. Good morning.
Morning, Mike Weimer from Level 3. We intend to lease the city shadow conduit to expand our network in Boston without having to do any excavation and street repairs.
Music to our ears.
Yes.
How many linear feet total, do you know?
It's approximately 1,100 feet.
1,100? Yeah, everybody wants to see it, I think.
We got a spot for you in Brighton.
Any members of the audience have any comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition of Level 3 Communications for the rental of city shadow in Devonshire Street, Milk Street, State Street, all as shown on the plans entitled City Shadow Route Map 33. Excuse me, Arch Street, Boston, one sheet dated November 7th, 2014.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
First item of new business, Everett Street, Brighton, specific repairs on a joint petition by the President and Fellows of Harvard College and the City of Boston Public Works Department. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. William Egan from the City of Boston Public Works Department. The City of Boston Public Works Department applies for a petition and a review by the Public Works Department for the reconstruction of the sidewalks on Everett Street. And the overall project consists of the reconstruction of the existing sidewalks, which are asphalt, and building new concrete sidewalks, which is a change in material, which is the reason we're here. Also installing new pedestrian ADA ramps, planting trees, and eventually, after the sidewalks are constructed and utility work is done in the street, we will be repaving the street. This project is being undertaken with monies provided by the City of Boston and a donation by Harvard University. Harvard University, in its master plan developed with the BRA, put together this additional funding to support the proposed improvements to Everett Street. And the limits of work are from North Beacon Street to Western Avenue. The section where Everett Street crosses the turnpike is owned by MassDOT, and that bridge is currently, and soon will be under construction to replace the deck, and we are cooperating with MassDOT to make sure that construction between both projects runs smoothly. The funding from Harvard University was $500,000, and the city approached and sat with the city council at a hearing to provide testimony for an accept and expend. That was held back in January. The accept and expend was approved, and the cooperation agreement has been developed between Harvard University and the City of Boston. And that's it for my testimony. Thank you.
When do we anticipate in this season?
Yes, the project has been advertised, and we have a bid, and the contract will be probably starting, I can't give you an exact date, but within a month, month and a half, 60, 75 days, 30 to 45.
Bill mentioned it, but we have a project at the same time to replace the water main on part of the street. We've been working closely with engineering on this, so in early 2016, we're going to be out there replacing about 500 feet of water pipe on the street. It's been cold out, so it's been coordinated. So it happened that this thing overlapped it, so that's why the paving will be held up until we get the pipe in and do the permanent trench repair and then pave it. It won't interfere with the sidewalk work.
And I would like to note, in addition to the work I described, we are adding some dry wells on Everett Street to collect stormwater. I think we have approximately 4 dry wells that we're adding, and just been working with Water and Sewer to continue our collection efforts of stormwater runoff.
Obviously, we're going to want to, the transportation department's going to want to see, the current plan of how we're going to work this out with his activities, and obviously the public works basically coexisting together. Obviously, you're going to put in a bypass, and that's right in the case of the sidewalks. So I'm sure we can work something out on that.
Yeah,
make it cool.
It's important that the contractor putting in the sidewalks is aware that some of that water work could impact the sidewalk. So we're going to probably have to defer some of that, until after we're done, just because of that issue. It's not because it's a residential street, things are really easy to do, of course, what I did with big buildings, but we just don't want anything that's going to, into us, that would touch a brand new sidewalk,
We've had a number of community meetings to go out there and explain the project, and the community is aware of the project and the fact that it's a 2-stage project. And we've also, last Tuesday, 2 days ago, we sat down with JD and we talked about the project. Most of the discussion centered around the final build condition and the striping. There's been a request to put in a bike lane versus Sharrows. It's a narrow street, so we've worked some of those issues out.
That's fine with the final condition, but in the construction manner section, I believe I sent stuff back to Zach. Relative to some of the school issues. We have 2 elementary schools in the area working things out with the headmaster as far as arrival, dismissal time and stuff. So I know that's in process, so I look forward to seeing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the contractor, as part of his, the approval permit, will have to submit the temporary traffic management plan to you for review and approval prior to any day now.
Right.
Well, one other small item, so the Everett Street, as I know it, runs underneath the MassDOT piece as well, to Franklin Street and to Braintree?
Yes.
Are we picking those pieces up as well, as a part of this project? Are we running it to Franklin and to Braintree? Or just to the bridge?
It's just to the bridge, and the lower portion that dead ends at the turnpike, there are no plans to do that portion, although the intersection of where it comes in on Everett Street on the Charles River side, we redid that intersection to try and improve some of the sight distance, and there's been some request on the other side. But the roads, the streets themselves and the sidewalks, no, it's not part of this.
Because the last time I was on the Charles River side, there was Jersey barriers actually in place on that piece of Everett.
Right, the Jersey barrier has been removed, and we've built in a new sidewalk, and the Jersey barrier's gone.
All right, thank you. I'm assuming 2 weeks will be enough time?
Yes.
We'll see you on June 11th for a public hearing.
Very good.
Thank you, Bill. New business item number 2, Bartlett Station Drive, Washington Street, Bartlett Street, Guild Street, Roxbury, line and grade, widening and relocation, specific repairs on a set of petitions by Bartlett Place Land Incorporated. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mark Mattel. I'm the project manager for Bartlett Place Land Inc. And we're here today to present the proposal of a new street, Bartlett Station Drive, and improvements to the existing adjacent streets on the site. Bartlett Yards is a former MBTA yard, about 8.5 acres, that's been blighted since 1996. We are redeveloping the yard into 323 units of housing and 45,000 square feet of commercial space. Currently, with the improvements of the roads, 2 of the buildings are shovel-ready to start construction soon after the road is completed pending approval. And we're ready to move on this project, and we've facilitated plenty of community meetings throughout multiple years to talk about the project, to bring about the public benefits that this project can bring to Dudley Square and the Roxbury community as a whole. And with that, I'll present Imad Zareen, who will go over the specifics of the public improvements of the site, and I can answer any development questions you may have about the project.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Imad Zareen from Develop Zareen. In support of the program that Mark talked about, we have before you 4 petitions. One for a new roadway that goes through the development. It's approximately a little over 700 feet of roadway, 60-foot right-of-way with 12-foot lanes, both directions, parallel parking on the road, and 11-foot sidewalks on both sides. The new road will be lined with trees on both sides, and we're doing specific repair to the perimeter roadways that abuts the site. On Washington Street, we are widening Washington Street, taking land from the development to allow for on-street parking, which currently doesn't exist, and also for a 12-foot sidewalk within the right-of-way. We're also proposing widening to Bartlett Street to expand the existing sidewalk, which is currently, it's about 6 feet wide. We're making it 9.5 foot wide, which would also allow trees along the road as well. We're also redoing the existing sidewalk on Gill Street, not having enough width on Guild. We're just going to rebuild the sidewalk to the existing right-of-way, which will be a minimum 7 feet, goes up to about 8.5 feet. And then we're also proposing trees at the back sidewalk on Guild. As part of the widening on Washington Street, we have to remove 11 trees, from the where they currently exist to allow for the widening. We are on the agenda for a tree hearing. That's next Wednesday. We'll be presenting that, and also we'll be discussing the tree replacements that we're proposing. The on-street parking that we're providing within the development itself is about 50 parking spaces within the site. That's on-street parking, and approximately 17 parking spaces on Washington Street. And with that, I'll open up to questions.
So these guys have actually worked pretty extensively with Pat Hoey and BTD, but one aspect that I don't know that they finalized is this being a new school. I don't know if you want to discuss how your bus circulation is going to work, but whether or not they've got everything they need appropriate from a BTD standpoint for all of the school zones and the appropriate, I know that their buses come up this new street and make a right. Do you have something that shows where your buses go?
This is the lot that the school is proposed to be on. I mean, they're still working with BTD.
Yeah.
I'm not privy to all the discussion they've had with BTD, but my understanding is the queuing will happen along the new road into Bartlett and back into the site. That's how the queues for the buses will occur. But they are still working with BTD.
Yes, that kind of concerns me, is that the engineer that works for me that deals strictly with the charter schools, public schools, have not been involved in this. And he needs to be plugged into this process. It's Julio Chow. That falls under the engineering domain. So for any of these approvals, we're gonna have to vent that out. We're gonna wanna talk to the charter school, what their loading and unloading needs are, headways, teacher parking, student, drop-off pickup. Those are all safety things, a safe walk to school. Is that new street gonna be a public street?
Yes.
And currently they're proposing to stage on the street for bus operations.
Right.
That may be an issue. We'll work our way through that.
Okay.
We'll follow up with that.
Yeah,
on
please.
the next meeting.
The site plans for the Water and Sewer Commission, I know
Yeah,
that they're in there, and I don't know if they've...
We've done 3 submissions already. We're working with Phil Rock. There's another submission we're making with comments that we got last time. Last comments we had, we are actually installing a new drain line in Bartlett, a 30-inch to,
How big?
as a separation.
Oh, okay. 30-inch?
30-inch. It's an extension of an existing 30-inch that the commission brought up about 100 feet into
Yeah.
Bartlett Street, so we're extending that.
That's very generous.
Big pipe.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Are there any retaining walls being built adjacent to the sidewalks?
I'm sorry?
Any retaining walls being built adjacent to the sidewalks?
There is at the intersection of Gill and Washington, the grades are pretty steep. So as part of the development for this building, we are building a small retaining wall. Currently, it will be sloped when we build this sidewalk. But we build a retaining wall on private property, not within the right-of-way.
All right, so you're going to push it back to the private
Yeah.
road?
The roadway that runs from Guild to Bartlett, is that private?
Yes, sir. It's a private development that's in its second phase of the development, so we have not actively designed that process, that road. But right now, it's just a schematic design.
So F7, D, F1, F2, F3, this is not being built.
Right, so the first phase, sorry for not clarifying this, but the first phase of the development is roughly building A, B, C, and 16-unit home ownership building, which is Lot E on Giles Street. So those are the first phase of our development, and the latter half will be the second phase.
Any impact to the infrastructure of streetlights in the widening of the sidewalks?
We've been working with the Boston Lights. We are relocating the new poles on Washington, replacing the fixture with new fixtures. All new poles, obviously, and fixtures within the new right-of-way. I think there's about 6 or 7 lights we're relocating to the back, to the new
You're working
sidewalk.
with Glenn Cooper and his group?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Which we've got a letter from them.
Yeah,
with the,
great.
Where are you with the BRA process now?
Mark? BRA process?
For zoning approval and everything else?
So you've done all that consistency?
So, yes, we've completed zoning approval. We have a PDA, this is a PDA site, and we have received approval for that in 2013. And also the Article 80 large project review for the buildings I mentioned in the first phase was also completed August 2013. So we're, as I mentioned, 2 of the buildings are very much shovel-ready upon completion of the road.
Speaking of shovel-ready, do you have a shovel-ready construction management plan?
I can follow up with that.
Yeah, because technically with the TAPA that you're developing with Pat Hoey, concurrently the construction management plan needs to be developed so that we have a cohesive plan. And that needs to be submitted to the BTD also. The signage and pavement marking plan, do we have that developed?
I'm sorry?
We have a signage and pavement marking plan for the new street, regulations, warning signs, pavement marking crosswalks.
We have to work with, I guess, with BTD on that. Right now, we're just showing stop
You're
signs.
looking for approval here. We need to have, if we're voting on an approval, that needs to be done.
I understand.
We'll work with you on that.
Okay.
So next Wednesday, you meet with the Parks Department about the relocation of trees or removal of trees?
Correct.
And then the work that has to be done with Mr. Hesford's shop? Good bit of work, it sounds like, but do you think 2 weeks is enough time?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, we'll probably we could come down next week if possible.
And we'll also bring our charter school team. I know they've been working extensively with BRA on the queuing of the buses.
Well, that's not the BRA's call, so make that clear that it's DTD. BRA has nothing to do with that.
Okay, we'll see you on June 11th for a public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Third item of new business, 151 Tremont Street, Boston proper. Specific repairs, projection license on a set of petitions by Tremont on the Commons condominium.
Good morning, I'm Jared Eigerman, representing the applicant. With me is Carl Damitz. He's the architect of record. He's debriefed on all the details. The existing canopy, I hope you have a chance to get the plans open, and Carl's got out a display, is going to be replaced. It's probably not something that you would approve nowadays if it had come before you. We're going to propose something much smaller and we hope more attractive. Mindful that normally we're only allowed to cover by policy 2/3 of the sidewalk, but we're looking to cover more. We went over that, as Carl will explain, with BRA staff, Mayor's office, Parks and Rec, because the common's across the street. But of course, it's your call, so we'll have to make that case. With that, I'll just turn it over to Carl and let him take you through it.
So this is the existing awning that we're looking to remove and replace with a new, certainly more attractive awning. So the existing awning is actually 3,049 square feet, the amount of area that it takes up above the sidewalk. The new awning will be reduced to 687 square feet. In designing the awning, we were really looking at the scale of the building and what sort of fit on the scale of the building, because it's a large condominium building with a parking garage that sort of fronts on Tremont Street. So in order to address the scale of the facade, we're sort of looking at a large canopy that, as Jared said, does slightly exceed the 2/3 mark. As part of the petition, we're also asking for specific repairs to modify the curb at the drop-off area, the valet area in front of the building. This was something that was modified in the past, and as we were looking for approval on this and going through the reviews, it was brought to our attention that there's about 8 square feet of that canopy that was overhanging beyond the sidewalk. So we looked at options and decided that the scale of this on the building was important, and so we're proposing to modify the curb, increase the depth of the sidewalk at the canopy so that there is no portion of the canopy that's overhanging beyond the sidewalk. And I think I can open it up to questions. So here shows the footprint of the canopy, the existing curb cut where you can see that slight portion at the end overhanging, and then the proposed new curb and the extension of the sidewalk. I should mention that the material of the sidewalk is a granite paver right now, a 2-inch thick granite paver. We're proposing to cut a 4-foot wide path down the center of it as a continuous concrete sidewalk for accessibility purposes that would continue along the center of that. And then in this area that is extended, we would be matching both the granite pavers at that line, extending it straight out to the sidewalk, and then concrete infill to match the concrete sidewalk beyond that.
Steve, has water and sewer approved the curb modification?
Yeah, we asked for curb modification for the drainage, because I don't think it's right now. So they made the modification to keep the drainage moving along there instead, so we've looked at the grades and it looks good.
Yeah, we will be cutting into the street a bit to address the drainage issues that are there right now. The water kind of pools. When they did the original curb cut, they never changed the grading or provided an additional drain, so it does tend to pool there, so we would address that as well.
More space for people to stand for our next Patriot celebration? Yeah, I don't see any problems with it.
Yeah, after the modifications, pretty well acceptable. At the curb line, the height of the canopy is about 20 feet, so that's fine. Is there plans to heat trace it, or is it just...
Yes, so it will be there. We will have a gutter that will connect to the existing storm drain inside the building, and that will all be heat traced.
Great. 2 weeks be enough time?
Thank you very much.
We'll see you on June 11th for a public hearing.
Thank you very much.
There is a fourth item of new business, which is not on many of your transcriptions. Beacon Street, Park Drive, Boston proper, specific repairs on a petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department.
Thank you. I'm Charlotte Fleetwood with the Boston Transportation Department, and the project is, we call it the Audubon Circle Project, but it's Beacon Street from St. Mary Street to Minor Street. But the heart of the project is really in Audubon Circle. It was one of 3 priority projects identified in a transportation action plan from 2009 that was funded by the state. It's really primarily a safety improvement project. The intersection of Park Drive and Audubon Circle is a pedestrian crash hotspot location. It also has higher than average motor vehicle crashes, and many of them making left turns. It also has many cyclists going down Beacon Street, but sporadic bike lanes. So what we're planning to do is to tighten up the geometry of the circle by eliminating the slip lanes, which will dramatically reduce crossing distances for pedestrians. We'll maintain the crossing islands so that they only need to cross 2 lanes at a time. This change in geometry allows us to change the signal timing so that the pedestrians have more time to cross and that the cross cycle comes up more frequently. We'll also have controlled left turns to help reduce the motor vehicle crashes, and we'll have continuous bike lanes along this entire stretch. The change in the geometry creates some plaza space at the intersection, and so we're using that plaza space for a couple of things, for placemaking and then also to have some green infrastructure. And this is, in fact, one of 3 green infrastructure demonstration projects that Boston Water and Sewer is partnering on, and it's required under an EPA consent order. The placemaking is something that was very important to the neighborhood. This was historically considered to be a gateway to the Emerald Necklace, and with this treatment and the trees and the green infrastructure at the intersection, it really creates a proper gateway. So I'm going to turn it over to Todd Unzis. He's with HDR Engineering, and he'll go through the engineering plans.
Good morning, Commissioners. So, as Charlotte stated, project limits are St. Mary's Street along Beacon Street to the west. As you can see, we're proposing to adjust some existing roadway alignments on Beacon Street. We're also going to be adjusting some of the curb alignments, creating additional sidewalk width. In conjunction with that, we're going to be providing additional street trees. We're going to be changing the surface treatments of the sidewalks. We're going to be providing permeable pavers in these areas designated here. It'll be regular concrete sidewalk for all ADA accessible passive travel. We have coordinated the curb alignments with the Boston Fire Department. We went through an extensive process with them. We got their blessing that the proposed sidewalk widenings, we adjusted them where they requested so that we didn't interfere with any of their firefighting abilities. So we got their okay on that. As for Audubon Circle itself, we've got the 4 quadrants here of significance. We're going to be providing some ornamental planter areas in each of the quadrants. The northwest, northeast, and southeast quadrants will also feature some additional rain garden area to provide some enhanced treatment of stormwater flow in the streets. We have received blessing from Boston Water and Sewer as far as the PIC process is concerned. Currently, we're at about the 75% stage of plan design. We have comments from Public Works, which we're looking to address, and we're hoping to move forward with the 100% submittal as soon as possible after receiving the approval from PIC.
Before you move off that plan, what's the proposed grading, sidewalk grading?
Proposed sidewalk grading? Grating or?
There's grates in the sidewalk?
Yes. Those, unfortunately, our landscape architect is unable to attend. Those will be pedestrian accessible, ADA compliant steel grating on above a sunken concrete channel that will convey stormwater runoff from the catch basin to the rain garden area on those 3 quadrants. You'll be able to see the runoff. Basically, it's a kind of. They're actually the grading.
Boston Water and Sewer is going to maintain the sumps and the way
Yeah,
they-
they're standard drain. They're actually standard drainage structures, which are basically off-the-shelf catch basin sump type structures, which will be maintained the same way as a regular catch basin. There'll be no extra requirements for that. And as far as the rain garden area, that'll be maintained by
the
private
neighborhood association.
private neighbors.
I mean, they take up the complete sidewalk. They take up the complete sidewalk.
It's a strip. It's a narrow strip.
Yeah, the structures are actually located along the curb line.
So are they designed for vehicle traffic?
Yes, H20 loading, and they will, the grates will be removable to provide access, or to permit access.
And the neighborhood, who's going to shovel and, maintain, during the winter?
Will be shoveled by the abutters, as it is today.
They're fairly new for the city. I haven't seen these around the city at all. Just want to make sure.
This is the site of a Boston Water and Sewer mitigation, right? Is that
Yes,
what it is?
yeah, it's part of, yeah.
So this site is part of a Boston Water and Sewer mitigation?
Yes, it's a requirement, it's a setup, we work with BTD, and there's a separate funding set up for these type of things. So that there's 2 things happening at the same time, there's traffic movement, there's stormwater.
And Boston Water and Sewer is okay with making this grate and drainage system as proposed?
I haven't seen I know we're maintaining all the drainage systems. I'm not sure about the rates, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen it. It probably hasn't been developed.
So this would be typical to a catch basin cleaning operation?
Yeah, just take the things up and put it back down.
So we do that.
Oh, yeah, we maintain all of the drainage systems.
Okay. And the grates themselves are designed for highway loading?
HS20 loading, correct, and they are pedestrian compliant.
They're ADA compliant?
Correct. And again, the planter areas themselves are going to be maintained by the neighborhood association. We have provided clear paths of travel around all the planter areas. It'll be just standard concrete surface to allow unrestricted access around each of the planter areas. Once you travel eastbound on Beacon Street, again, we're proposing just some general curb realignment to provide increased sidewalk area, additional street tree plantings. Again, the surface treatments will be standard concrete along the accessible path of travel, and will be permeable pavers in amongst the street trees.
Well, I'm sorry, one more question.
Sure.
Who's going to maintain them now? Maintained by?
So the way we've been doing the green infrastructure demonstration projects is that Boston Water and Sewer will maintain them for the first 3 years. And then the thought is that within 3 years, the city will figure out some system for maintaining green infrastructure, because it is required by EPA. And
Stay tuned.
After 3 years, it goes to Public Works. It's a sidewalk.
or Boston Water and Sewer Public Works will figure out a system.
You got the right people on this board.
What's ISD? What are they doing? ISD?
We have to write up in the nutshell.
You can start writing the tickets out.
Thanks for your help.
You have them also.
So the project limit along the east end is minor Arundel Street. Again, we're going to simply be readjusting the existing curb line, providing new compliant sidewalks. We're going to be removing the majority of the center median in Beacon and replacing it with smaller island sections. When we go to the 100% design, traffic management plans, pavement marking plans will all be part of that set for BTD review. I believe they've already been provided with some preliminary plans so that they can get a feel for how that's going to look. We're going to have bike lanes along both the east and west direction of flow, along with completely revamped street lighting, which the design has been finalized and blessed by Glenn Cooper over at Street Lighting. And the final portion is Park Drive. We're also proposing work on Park Drive south of Audubon Circle. That is actually under the jurisdiction of DCR, so we are concurrently in the permitting process with them. We're coordinating, and we have applications in, and we basically received their okay for the work in Park Drive, which will be kept separate from the work under the jurisdiction of the City of Boston. Other than that, I'm free to take any questions you may have. Or
One thing that's not reflected in the plans, we met with the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and they asked us to widen the crossing islands, widen the smooth path of travel, so we're going to be doing that.
Just on this, there's been extensive work, and as Charlotte's pointed out, this is a high pedestrian and vehicular crash site, and something that we really want to take care of. And it actually does very well right now with the mayor's initiative to provide Vision Zero pedestrian safety vehicular safety, et cetera. So this is a great project in that respect, and it really backs up with the mayor's program and really puts a good spot on the city. So there's been a lot of hard work going into this. Appreciate that. I think we got a good product here to make it a lot safer for the pedestrians and bicyclists and vehicular traffic. So been a lot of work.
I would concur. I know, Charlotte, you've been working very hard on this project. I appreciate it. It's where I used to watch the marathon every year, so I know how busy that intersection can be. So yeah, full support here from Public Works.
I can sit in grass.
Just on that, just what they were talking about, the fire department, I did talk to Chief Burke, and he appreciates the changes and accommodations that were made on behalf of the fire department, so just want to pass that along.
Will 2 weeks be enough time?
Yes, got it.
We will see you on June 11th for our public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That was it.